Hey guys, it's Maggie and I am back finally to give you all an update. If you follow me on Instagram or Facebook, you might have seen that I wound up in the ER and ultimately admitted to the hospital a couple weeks ago. So I thought I would tell you a little bit about that, and yeah. So like I said, a few weeks ago, I was admitted to the hospital. It was totally random and had nothing to do with Crohn's, although for the longest time I thought it did. So let's rewind a few months. Over the summer, I started having what I called stoma pain. It felt like pain with peristalsis kind of inside of my abdomen, like behind my stoma. And it would come and go. I would have it for a few days and then it would be totally fine for a few days. And as time went on, it kept worsening to the point where I mentioned it to my GI doctor and then my future surgeon. And I said, you know, I'm having this pain, and they thought it might be adhesions, which I kind of found weird because I haven't had abdominal surgery in over 10 years now, and it just seems weird that now would be the time that it would start. But apparently it can happen, so we wrote it off as that, and we thought when I get my colectomy and my rectum out, we would take care of that at the same time. Pause for dog barking. So I went on for a long time thinking that this was the plan and this was the issue and it wasn't a big deal. But the pain kept getting worse to the point where if you follow me on Instagram, you saw that I went to Busch Gardens, and I think I might have written in a post or maybe in a video I posted on here that I was near needing a wheelchair. Actually, I did need it. I just refused to use it because I was in so much pain on my right side and I didn't know why. I just assumed it was these adhesions around my stoma. So I kept ignoring it until about 2 weeks ago, maybe a little bit more than that. I forget the exact date. I just know it was a Monday. I started to get the pain really bad, and it was building throughout the day. Zach was home with me, and I was just, you know, every time that the pain would come on, I would be like, oh my God, like bent over, doubled over on the couch, just near tears. And at the end of the day, around 5 or 6, I started getting joint pain, just all over, just totally couldn't move. And I thought, you know, this is really weird. So I took my temperature and it was 98.8, which for regular people, you know, is nearing a fever. For me, that's pretty high. I sit right around 97 normally, so that was really weird. And then about half an hour later, I checked it and I was 102, and I started to get really miserable, really miserable. So I started doing the things that I would do as a nurse. I started taking Tylenol around the clock and getting my fluids in as much as I could. Then the nausea started setting in, and this went into Tuesday. I was going febrile every 3 to 4 hours, you know, high 102, 103 fevers. I was not awake on Tuesday. I slept pretty much the entire day. I was throwing up. I threw up all over our coffee table, all over our dining room floor, and I almost threw up on Zach. He went to work that day, and when he walked through the door coming home, he woke me and he came in to say hello. I was on the couch. Comes in to say hello, and I just start spewing vomit. And I was like, trash can, trash can. So he brings in our large, totally filled trash can from our kitchen. And I was like, how am I gonna throw up in this? I'm in the couch, like the coffee table's in front of me. So then I started saying Tupperware or Tupperware. So he brought me Tupperware, and I finished throwing up in there. That was pretty miserable. Luckily enough, I had an appointment with my surgeon the next day. It was really hard getting there. My dad came with me, and as soon as my dad came over to my house, I broke down crying, and I was like, I'm not okay. I'm really sick. And he was like, you are really sick. My heart rate was in the 130s, 140s. On the way there. So I walked into my surgeon's appointment. I was still having this pain. I was nauseated. I was feverish. And I just started crying on the surgeon. And I was like, I don't feel good. So needless to say, we did not do any planning for my colectomy, which is what that appointment was supposed to be for. He sent me right to the ER. And when I got to the ER, we did fluids, obviously. I wound up being super dehydrated because I couldn't keep anything down. Tons of nausea meds. I mean, they hit them all. I did Zofran, promethazine, Reglan. What else did they do? They did one other one. I can't even remember. They did Tylenol. They did Toradol, ibuprofen, orally. They did all of it. And I was still spiking really high fevers. They started antibiotics, and I still kept spiking. So I was admitted to the hospital. It was a rough experience because the hospital was incredibly full. So I wound up being admitted into the ED. So basically they just moved me to another room. It didn't have a bathroom. The bathroom was down the hall. I could barely walk. I could barely open my eyes because I was getting awful headaches and I was shivering like crazy. So my dad wound up having to walk me to the bathroom, and it was miserable. And then my bag leaked, and when I say it leaked, it suddenly sprung a leak and was down the front of my gown, down my leg. I was having a time, so I had to change my bag while I was totally out of it. I don't even remember it. Finally, I got a room, got upstairs. I kept spiking for about 4 days. Which they found weird. And with the CAT scan, they found that I had pyelonephritis. So I basically had this kidney infection seemingly brewing for months, kind of getting better on its own and then coming back. And that's what the pain was. And eventually, because I didn't do anything about it, because I didn't know I was sick, I went septic. So I was admitted with severe sepsis and the pyelonephritis. Finally, after about 4 days of antibiotics, and I had to try a few different ones because I couldn't tolerate one of the antibiotics they gave me. I think it was Bactrim. They wound up putting me on Augmentin, and that I could tolerate. I finally stopped having high fevers. I was sitting around 99, and they were okay to let me go. So that is my story of what has happened. If you've seen previous videos, I actually have a congenital narrowing of my right ureter, so the tube from my kidney to my bladder. Maybe that contributed to it, maybe not. I asked if they thought it was part of it, and they were like, we're not really sure, probably not. You probably just had this infection going for a while. And I asked if they thought I'd need a stent or anything put in, and they said, if this keeps happening to you, we'll talk about it, but since this is the first time, we're not going to. Anyways, I've been home for a week and a half. I was really weak. I lost 6 or 7 pounds because I was around 94 beforehand and came home at 88. So jumped right back into things, which was definitely not smart, but I had planned a birthday trip for my friend, and we went to Atlantic City. And luckily there, we just ate so much, so that helped me a little bit. And I'm back around 90, 91. So getting my strength back. I'm still out of breath. My hemoglobin wound up dropping because I was peeing blood, which was super crazy to see. That's never happened to me before. I mean, it was like blood drops dripping out of me, which is crazy. I'm very lucky that the kidney function returned. It was just when you're so used to having GI illness and then you have something not GI happen to you, you're like, okay, what? No. One system is enough. I don't want to go into all these other system illnesses. So, oh God, that was the trip. I don't know, it's crazy, guys. I'm glad I'm better. I'm glad I finally got better because I was miserable. I will say that was the second most miserable time I've had in a hospital. This being behind peritonitis. I would much rather get surgery because I couldn't even think. Like, my brain just, it was gone because the headaches were so bad. Anyways, I thought I'd update you. I would love to do a video about sepsis because a lot of patients and healthcare workers don't know a whole lot about it, and the signs can be a little bit weird when it comes to it, but it can be life-threatening if it's not caught. In fact, on the hospital unit that I worked on, we had a patient die from sepsis because we didn't catch the symptoms, and the symptoms were so vague. So I think that would be a really good video to make. Anyway, I am out of breath, still getting my hemoglobin back up, but I hope that you enjoyed this video. Don't get pyelonephritis because it's awful. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.